Happy Easter, everyone. I'm zooming in on this book here. We're going to talk about it in a second. I just want you to see that it says, this is the Holy Hexagram. Okay. And it is chapter 69 of a very, very wonderful and curious book called the Book of Lies. And here is the Book of Lies, or at least a very old, relatively old edition to it. It's called the Book of Lies, which is also falsely called Breaks. The wanderings or falsifications of the one thought of Frater Perdurabo Aleister Crowley, which thought is itself untrue. A reprint with an additional commentary to each chapter. The idea being, every time you open your mouth, even if you say the truth, opening your mouth and trying to crystallize it, your thought into two words immediately makes it false. So, but anyway, and my bookmark here I just ran across. This is to certify that your name here hath faithfully attended, check one, every, almost all, most, a few, at least one, Haru Raha Lodge Monday Night Magic Class Book of Lies. I swear to God I did. And then Constance and I would sign it for her. But anyway, I want to talk just for a second about the Book of Lies, because it has everything to do with the star sapphire ritual, Thelemic ritual of the hexagram. And that's where we are in our studies of the Magick of Aleister Crowley, Handbook of the Rituals of Thelema. Now, the star sapphire and the star ruby are both designated official rituals of the AA. Okay, so it is unwise and usually unproductive to discuss the meanings or possible meanings of those official rituals, because they are for you as your own personal private magician. They're for your meditational purposes. They're for your own magical edification. And it's nobody else's business to presume to push their particular interpretation of what any of it means. So right there, you know that I'm sort of between a rock and a hard spot when I want to write a book about the rituals of Thelema. Because I want to be as authoritative as I possibly can and as accurate as I possibly can, but I want to stay out of the way of your own self-revelation. So this is where Thelemic magic teachers have to be very, very cautious not to trespass on your own awakening to these things. So you'll hear lots of everything about Aleister Crowley, that you'll hear lots of different people's interpretations of what all of this means. And because it was Aleister Crowley, a lot of it can sound really salacious or evil or obscene. And it's not that there aren't elements of all of that in this. But there's something greater behind all of it. And we must never lose that sight of that. In the same way that there's something greater behind the texts of any world religion. That if you would take one thing particularly literally and another thing symbolically, and then try to mix them together in one thing. That's a recipe for spiritual bullies to take advantage of that and provoke almost political power over other people. Crowley had to avoid that. He wanted to avoid it. He's forced us to overcome that. So that's why nobody interprets the Book of the Law for another person. Dogma can't form your own. You have to form your own dogma, and that dogma has to be fluid and evolving at all time. So that being said, the Book of Lies. Now the official date on the Book of Lies is a mystery in itself. It says 1913 on it. But anyway, this is part of the introduction by Israel Regardie. But he's quoting Crowley from his own diaries, talking about the Book of Lies. It is interesting in this connection to recall how it all came into my possession. It had occurred to me to write a book, the Book of Lies, which is also falsely called Breaks, the wanderings or falsifications of the thought of Frater Perdurabo, which thought itself is untrue. Quite a title. One of these chapters bothered me. I could not write it. I invoked Dionysus with particular fervor, but still without success. I went off in desperation to change my luck by doing something entirely contrary to my inclinations. In the midst of my disgust, the Spirit came over me, and I scribbled the chapter down by the light of a farthing dip. When I read it over, I was as disconnected as before. But I stuck it into the book in sort of an anger at myself as a deliberate act of spite toward my readers. Shortly after the publication, the OHO, or the outer head of the order of OTO, came to me. At that time, I did not realize there was anything in the OTO beyond a convenient compendium of the more important truths of Freemasonry. He said that since I was acquainted with the supreme secret of the order, I must be allowed the 9th degree and obligated in regard to it. I protested that I knew no such secret, but he said, "Hey, you've printed it in the plainest language." I said that I could not have done so because I did not know it. He went to the bookshelves, taking out a copy of the Book of Lies. He pointed to a passage in the despised chapter. It instantly flashed upon me. The entire symbolism, not only of Freemasonry, but of many other traditions, blazed upon my spiritual vision. From that moment, the OTO assumed its proper importance in my mind. I understood that I held in my hand the key to the future progress of humanity. The commentary of the book was written by Crowley around 1921. So the book itself, just this almost single-page chapters, really, 91 of them, was 1913, or at least published 1913, and the commentaries in 1921. Okay, that out of the way. Keeping that in mind, how important that despised chapter was. Elsewhere in Crowley's writings later on, he hints or points us, and sometimes I believe in a letter to someone in Magic Without Tears, but I'm not sure, actually identifies it as chapter 36. Chapter 36 is the star sapphire, the Thelemic hexagram ritual. See, there's a point to what I was doing. And it's also chapter 7 of this book here. Am I plugging it enough? If you don't have one, it'd make a great Easter gift. I begin with an epigram from Liber Aleph, which is Crowley's epistle to his magical son at the time, Frater Akkad. Thus far then concerning the pentagram, how it is the cross and its virtue in the highest, but the hexagram is for the most part a detail of the formula of the rose and cross. I have shewed unto thee how the most holy Trinity is the yang, but the spirit and the water, or the fluid in the blood, that bear witness to the inferior are of the yin. Thus the operation of the hexagram lieth wholly within the order of one plane, uniting indeed any soul with its image, but not transcendently, for its effect is cosmos, the Vav that springeth from the union of the Yod and He. That's from Liber Aleph. The star sapphire first appeared in 1913 as chapter 36 of the Book of Lies, the star ruby. The Book of Lies. Like the star ruby and the rest of the material in that little book, it reflects the extraordinarily high level of illumination that characterized Crowley's work of that period. It contains the following commentary. The star sapphire corresponds with the star ruby of chapter 25, 36 being the square of 6, as 25 is of 5. This chapter gives the real and perfect ritual of the hexagram. It would be improper to comment further upon any official ritual of the AA. That's unquote. As I believe that a book about Thelemic rituals be incomplete without a basic introduction to the star sapphire, I feel it necessary to risk the condemnation of those who maintain that any discussion of the ritual in print is improper. Since the mid-70s, at least a dozen works have been published that have touched upon this subject of this ritual. While many have been well-intended efforts, others have contained what I consider to be gross distortions and dubious interpretations. After reading them, I understand the wisdom of Crowley's commentary. Be that as it may, I think it important that I offer a brief introduction and a few notes. Crowley's autohagiography is the autobiography of the saint. That's the Confessions of Aleister Crowley, Crowley's autohagiography. Crowley's autohagiography would have us believe the star sapphire was hastily written as a Thelemic version of the hexagram ritual, and he had no idea of any deeper implications. He relates how he received an unexpected visit from Theodor Reuss, the head of the Ordo Templi Orientis, who accused him of publishing the order's central secret, a technique of sexual magic. When Crowley protested he did no such thing and that he didn't even know any secret of sex magic, Royce produced a copy of the Book of Lies and pointed to chapter 36, the star sapphire. Now, scholars debate the veracity of this story, but there's little dispute that this ceremony can easily be interpreted as a sex magic ritual. Be that as it may, I take exception to those who, with knowing winks and nudges, would have us believe that the star sapphire, or Liber 15, or a host of other Crowley rituals are merely elaborate blinds for a variety of exotic sex acts. All magic is sexual. Indeed, all life is sexual. It's either overt or implied, invoked or directed, stored or released. The Mass of the Roman Catholic Church is every bit as much of a pantomime of the sex act as the great rite of the witches. The real question is, what is sex symbolic of? The star sapphire is written as if it could be a complex choreographed act of ceremonial lovemaking. After all, the hexagram is symbolic of the union of opposites. In this ritual, the real challenge of the magician lies in the ability to concentrate, to visualize, to receive, direct, and exchange the energies represented by the various, quote, holy hexagrams, unquote. This work is performed on the magical plane, which can be accessed by any number of techniques, including but not limited to sex. Whenever opposites are transcended and perfect union is realized, a greater something is achieved. In lovemaking, it's the ecstasy of orgasm. In initiation, it can be the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. And I might add, in yoga, it might be samadhi. But I digress. I encourage the student who has mastered the traditional hexagram rituals to learn the star sapphire. Practice it first as a non-sexual exercise. I'll say that again. Learn it and practice it as a non-sexual exercise by just drawing the universal hexagrams or the traditional hexagrams. Study and meditate upon the implications of the signs, the words, and most importantly, the meanings of the 4 holy hexagrams. Your labor will be well repaid. In chapter 69 of the Book of Lies, Crowley gives us the only explicit definition of the holy hexagram ever published. We produce it and Crowley's commentary and hope the reader will find it useful. Chapter 69. The way to succeed and the way to suck eggs. That's the name of the chapter. This is the holy hexagram. Plunge from the height, O God, and interlock with man. Plunge from the height, O man, and interlock with beast. The red triangle is the descending tongue of grace. The blue triangle is the ascending tongue of prayer. This interchange, the double gift of tongues, the word of double power, abrahadabra, is the sign of the great work. For the great work is accomplished in silence. And behold, is not that word equal to chet? Abrahadabra is equal to chet, spelled in full, 418. That word is equal to chet, and that is Cancer, whose sigil is 69. This work eats itself up, accomplishes its own end, nourishes the worker, leaves no seed, is perfect in itself. Little children, love one another. That's chapter 69 of the Book of Lies. That starts off, this is the holy hexagram. The commentary is very brief, Crowley's commentary on it. The key to understanding this chapter is given in the number and the title, the former being intelligible to all nations who employ Arabic numerals or Arabic figures, 69. The latter only to experts in deciphering English puns, the way to suck seed and the way to suck eggs. This chapter alludes to Levi's drawing of the hexagram. The famous Eliphas Levi, it looks like a Star of David with sort of God in the top triangle and sort of an averse upside down infernal version of it in the lower triangle. This chapter alludes to Levi's drawing of the hexagram and is a criticism of or improvement upon it. The ordinary hexagram, the hexagram of nature, the red triangle is upward like fire, and the blue triangle downward like water. In the magical hexagram, this is reversed. The descending red triangle is that of Horus, a sign especially revealed by him personally at the equinox of the gods. It is the flame descending upon the altar and licking up the burnt offering. I'm going to stop there and digress for a second. There's a famous story in the Old Testament about Aleister having a duel with pagan priests of Baal, I guess. And because every year they magically made fire appear on the altar, or they lit a sacred fire on a high place. And Elijah said, hey, this year I'll light that fire and God will light it for me. I'll just make lightning fall and set the thing on fire. And so they said, oh, yeah, right. Okay, well, the day of the duel came, and Aleister said, oh, hey, this is too easy. The wood here on the sacrificial altar, the wood's too dry. It'd be too easy for me to light it. Pour some water on it. And so Elijah's men, I guess, pour water on it, or pour some kind of liquid on it. Who knows? Early form of oil or gasoline is my theory. But anyway, and Elijah goes, okay, God of Israel, show these blasphemers who's who. And supposedly lightning strikes and sets the altar on fire. Well, that's the image, the myth that Crowley's referring to as the descending tongue of flame that is licking up the burnt offering. I'll stop regressing now, or digressing. The blue triangle represents the aspiration, since blue is the color of devotion, and the triangle, kinetically considered, is the symbol of directed force. The first three paragraphs, or in the first three paragraphs, this formation of the hexagram is explained. It is a symbol of the mutual separation of the holy guardian angel with his client. In the interlocking is indicated the completion of the work. Paragraph 4 explains in slightly different language what we've said above. Chapter 4, line 4. The interchange of double gifted tongues, the word of double power. Okay. And explains in slightly different language what we've said above, and the scriptural image of tongues is introduced. In paragraph 5, the symbol of the tongues is further developed. Abrahadabra is our primal example of an interlocked word. We assume that the reader has thoroughly studied that word in Liber D, etc. Crowley's always assuming we've read something else. The sigil of Cancer links all of this symbolism with the number of the chapter. The remaining paragraphs continue the Gallic symbolism. So, that's where we'll stop today. In this class, okay, this Monday night class of which take a screen thing and make yourself a graduate of, I made paper dolls, okay, a red one and a blue one. If you wanted to speculate on the different ways that the human body, two human bodies could actually form the holy hexagrams, and I posted them down below. And I'm not telling you which ones are which, or I wouldn't interpret for you which ones are which. But if you just look at the regular hexagrams, the old style hexagrams, these right there. And remember that that in the hexagram ritual, you're using the cardinal quarters. That's fire for Aries in the east, earth for Capricorn in the south, the air in the west, and water for Cancer in the north. And those are the hexagrams, okay? And those paper dolls that I printed out yesterday on my site here are posted on my site that you can print out and cut out and play with to form each of those kind of triangles, and then follow it along in the book, The Star Sapphire, as we read it tomorrow. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. Now, while you're having fun with it, remember that the act of physical love that you're mimicking with those paper dolls are only the crust, are only the clefoth, are only the outer shell of the energies and the forces and the concepts that are going on internally in the magician, in the solo magician, because all magic is ultimately solo game. So we're dealing with forces, energy directed outward, received backwards, blended, equilibrated, and transcended. So the sex act itself is a symbol for what's really going on. And the magic is to do what's really going on, and no matter how you have to picture it or enact it. Okay? If that makes any sense to you whatsoever. tomorrow, starting Monday, we'll read the Star Sapphire itself, cut out your paper dolls, and we'll play around with them, and hopefully have a little fun. Anyway, happy Easter, everybody. Don't get together with anyone. Don't go on an Easter egg hunt. But you can wear your hat. Okay. Continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.